So we're going to be using the matching die and stamp set with the kitchen tools on to turn one of our little bridge card cupboard cards into a little set of kitchen cupboards. So what I need to do first is to stamp the stamp. So I'm going to use my press to impress, and I'm simply going to take a piece of craft card. This is just standard craft card. I'm going to take my stamp and lay it down on top. I'm then going to close the lid, and we'll simply ink up this stamp. And I'm using VersaFine in vintage sepia to give me a really sort of aged wood handled look. So I'm just going to ink the stamp, give it a good inking, and then I'm simply going to stamp it. And the brilliant thing about the stamp and die combos is that all of these pieces, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 different tools will stamp in one piece, and then we will cut them out in one piece using the matching die. And I found with little dies like this in the past, if I had a die that cut out just that little fork, I'd lose it so quickly because little pieces get lost. So all we're going to do is simply match corner to corner. So if you can see the stamped corners, it's right. You can look through the die and you can see that all of the different sketched tools are visible through it. So we add a little bit of tape to this to keep it nice and in position. You don't want it to move. You can see just taping once, it's moving. So I'm just going to tape it in 2 places to keep it really steady. And then all I'm going to do is run that through my die cutting machine and cut it out. So we'll move this to one side, because once this is cut, we will get our individual pieces. So here I've got some pieces that I've cut already, and all I've done is add a little bit of shading to them. So I'm using the mini die inks, sorry, from Izink, and a finger dauber. And this colour I'm using is walnut. I'm just going to add a little bit of colour, holding it in the air and flicking the edge just to give them a little bit of 3D. So again, the same with this little breadboard, just a little bit of colour, just to give it a nice 3D edge. Okay, now a different idea that you can do with these, I've done here. And what I've done is I cut the whole die out simply in silver mirror card. I then cut the handles off the pieces that I had die cut in the brown craft card with the sepia, shaded them and stuck them on top, so that I've got a really nice knife there with a wooden handle, spatula, fork, all with wooden handles, even the little whisk. So it gives me a really nice selection of little kitchen tools. And what I've done here is taken a scrap of card, folded it in half, put some glue on the bottom and put my salt and pepper pot on so that I can have those popping up. So that's my pieces prepared. Next I need to do is to cut the pieces that I need for the actual wardrobe. So I'm going to bring that back in, or from the kitchen cupboard. And what you'll see you get in the die that we haven't used as yet in any of the demos, you get this square panel, which gives you the perfect square at the back. So I've done this in a high gloss paper. You get the little kitchen cupboard front to cover there. You get a bridged panel, so a sort of notched panel, and that has a really strong deboss line on it, so you get that real 3D look. If I bring in this card here, you can see what I mean about this nice 3D card, which is done on the paper that I've made to look like wood. I'll be showing you that in another demo. So what we need to do is cut ourselves in any paper you want. I've used a gloss paper, 2 of the plain square, 2 of the notched. You then want a further piece of this rectangle, and you'll notice there's a slightly larger piece as well that you can use in the same style, which will give you a drawer for the front. You've also got this little die here, and this little die is to give you handles and knobs to actually go onto your cupboards and your wardrobes. So I'm going to bring in the pieces that I've already cut. So here we've got 2 little cupboard doors. So I've used the notched on top of the squares, and cut the silver mirror card with the die to cut the knobs and the drawer pull. I've made myself a little drawer using the drawer pull panel, the little pull, and all I've done for that is cut it in silver mirror card, put a little bit of foam tape on, and just fold that lightly in my hands so that it's a little bit 3D'd, and stick that into the middle of my drawer. I've then foam taped that onto the front. I've then added a little bit more foam tape on the back. And finally, I've taken a little scrap of the gloss card and I put some foam tape on it and added it onto this little panel of embossed card, as I thought that would look nice in the actual wardrobe itself. So all we're going to do now is put it together very, very quickly. So I've got my little cupboard made up. I've got my back here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue or a little bit of tape to glue this down. So on this occasion, I'm going to use a little bit of wet glue because I feel that that's more solid. So I'm going to slide that piece in just there to give me my back with my little shelf. I'm going to put my 2 cupboard doors on. So I'm using a cupboard door on each side, and they fit just nicely there and there. And you can see how quickly you can put together something quite different, and I think that's what a lot of the time we're looking for. I get some more glue out of here, there we go. So we put that on, there we go. We've got our 2 shiny cupboard doors. I've added a little bit of foam tape onto the back of the drawer because I want the drawer to suggest that it's coming out frontwards, and it's actually a little bit 3D. So I'm going to put the drawer in place, and you can see there then we've got 2 cupboard doors and a drawer. Okay, I've got my little shelf. So I'm going to take the salt and pepper pot that I made on the little hinge, and I'm just going to take this little bit of power tape off that I've got on the bottom there, and I'm going to position those in so they're about halfway in. We'll get that stuck down properly, there we go. So I've got the salt and pepper showing. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of my glue glaze, and then we'll add at the back, I'm going to add one of the spatulas. So a little bit of glue on there. So let's add a spatula. Let's have it coming that way, shall we? We'll add the fork again. Let's have it coming that way. I should probably add a little bit more glue onto that. So we'll add our fork in. There we go. Just hanging there. I've got the other tools, so what I could do is take the knife that I made, and we'll have that coming out of the kitchen drawer. So I'm just going to lift this up slightly to relieve the tape, and we'll have the knife coming out of the kitchen drawer. Why don't we have the other knife coming out of there as well? So we've got that on the 3D. Yeah. Okay, I've got a rolling pin if I want to add that. I've got the breadboard. I could add that just on the back there. There's loads of different things that you can actually do with this to make it look really 3D, and you'd spend a lot longer decorating it. But hopefully that gives you some ideas of what you can actually achieve and what you can actually do using a combination of the kitchen tools and the bridge card to make yourself a little set of kitchen cupboards.